My name is Haley Monroe. I'm 29. And last week at our annual family dinner, my sister leaned across the table, smirked, and said, "You? Own property? Haley, you'll be renting until you're 80. Dad didn't even defend me. He just nodded and added, "Some people just aren't built for responsibility." I swallowed every word like it was nothing and whispered, "You're probably right." But the very next morning, I called my property manager and said the 7 words that changed everything. Stop accepting her rent payments. Effective immediately. Before I tell you why my sister went pale when she learned whose name was on her lease, hit the like button, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from tonight. Now, let me tell you who I really am. Not the version my family thinks they know. Not the punchline they've turned me into at every gathering for the last decade. The real me. I'm the late bloomer. The one nobody bet on. The daughter who wasn't worth the investment of a new car or a college fund. I'm the sibling who paid her own way through community college, while my sister Madison got a brand new Jeep for her 16th birthday. I'm the one who took 3 buses to get to work, while she complained about the color of her car not matching her personality. Madison has always been the successful one, the golden child, the daughter my parents parade around like a trophy at every family function. She was always first. First car, first trip abroad, first job with benefits, first everything that mattered to my father. And me? I was the afterthought, the realistic one, the one who should just accept her limitations and stop dreaming so big. My dad is old school, traditional in the worst ways. To him, success equals being the firstborn, having a flashy job title, and being a big talker. Madison checks all those boxes. She works in pharmaceutical sales, drives a luxury car, wears designer clothes, and never shuts up about any of it. Dad loves that. He loves the noise, the performance, the illusion of success. I work in property management analytics. I wear clothes from Target. I drive a 2012 Honda Civic. And I'm quiet. God, I'm so quiet. I don't brag. I don't perform. I just exist in the background of every family photo, every holiday dinner, every birthday celebration. And because I'm quiet, because I'm steady, because I don't make noise. They assumed I was nothing. They called me the lifelong renter, not behind my back. To my face. At Thanksgiving. At Christmas. At random Tuesday dinners. It became a running joke that hurt a little more every single time. Haley's never going to own anything. Haley's just not wired for success like Madison. Some people are renters, Haley. There's no shame in that. Except there was shame. The shame they placed on me. The shame in my father's eyes every time he looked at me like I was a disappointment he learned to tolerate. Let me take you back further. Because this didn't start last week. This started when I was 17 years old, and Madison got a brand new Jeep Grand Cherokee for her birthday. I asked if I could borrow it to get to my part-time job at the grocery store. She laughed. Dad said, "You didn't earn it, Haley. Madison earned this." How? How did she earn it? By being born first? By being louder? By demanding more and getting it? I didn't get a car. I got a bus pass. And I took that bus to work, to community college, to every job interview I ever had for the first 4 years of my adult life. I paid for my own books, my own tuition, my own food, while Madison's college fund paid for her state university dorm and her sorority fees. At every holiday gathering, Madison's achievements were framed photos on the mantle. Literally framed. Her college graduation, her first apartment lease signing, her promotion to senior sales associate. My mom bought actual frames for these moments. You know what my moments got? Polite nods. That's nice. Haley! Before the conversation shifted back to Madison's latest vacation, or her new boyfriend, or her sparkling career trajectory. When I mentioned saving money, they laughed. When I said I wanted to invest in real estate one day, my dad patted my shoulder and said, "Haley, you'll never catch up. Madison's already 10 steps ahead. Just be realistic." Be realistic. That phrase haunted me. It was code for stop trying, stop dreaming, accept that you're less than your sister, and you always will be. He told me, more than once, to just rent forever and stay realistic, as if owning property was some fantasy reserved for people like Madison, people who were louder, flashier, better. I swallowed that bitterness for years. I smiled through every dismissal. I nodded through every insult disguised as advice. And I built something they couldn't even fathom in the shadows of their ignorance, because while they mocked me, I was learning. I worked in property management analytics for a mid-sized housing corporation. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't something I could brag about at dinner parties. But it was an education. A real one. I learned how leases work, how multi-unit properties are acquired, how LLCs shield property ownership and keep names anonymous, how undervalued buildings in up-and-coming neighborhoods appreciate in value if you're patient and smart. I lived cheap. Painfully cheap. I didn't go on vacations. I didn't buy new clothes. I didn't lease a luxury car or get my nails done or eat at trendy restaurants. I saved aggressively, putting away 30 to 40% of every paycheck while my family thought I was just scraping by. I had a mentor at work, an older woman named Diane, who saw something in me that my own father never did. She told me something I'll never forget. Ownership doesn't begin with money, Haley. It begins with knowledge. Learn everything, save everything, and when the opportunity comes, you take it. You don't hesitate. You don't second guess. You take it. So I learned. I studied. I watched investors come through our office, watched deals close, watched fortunes change hands over properties most people walked past without a second glance. And my life diverged completely from my family's perception of me. They thought I was barely surviving. I was building an empire they couldn't see. Then the turning point came. Our company decided to sell off a distressed apartment complex on the east side of town. It was old. It needed work. Most investors took one look and passed. The building had a reputation for being a money pit, a headache, a risk not worth taking. But I saw something else. I saw that the area was slated for redevelopment. New businesses were moving in. A light rail extension was being planned 2 blocks away. Property values in that neighborhood were going to skyrocket in the next 3 to 5 years. I knew it. I felt it in my bones. I partnered with 2 co-workers who trusted my research. We formed an LLC. We pooled our savings, secured a small business loan, and we bought the entire complex, 24 units. All of them. We became landlords overnight. And here's the critical detail. My name isn't visible publicly. The LLC shields my identity. To every tenant, to every vendor, to anyone looking at public records, it just says, Greenway Property Holdings, LLC. My name is nowhere, but as part of the partnership, I personally review every tenant file, every application, every lease renewal. And one day, I'm going through the stack of new applications, and I see a familiar name, Madison Brown, my sister, applying to live in my building. I stared at that application for a long time. I saw her income, her credit score, her references. I saw her list our father as her emergency contact. I saw her write that she works in pharmaceutical sales and needs a luxury apartment that reflects her lifestyle. Luxury. This building was decent, sure. We'd renovated it, updated the kitchens, refinished the floors. But luxury. Madison was overselling it because that's what Madison does. And I approved her application. I didn't say a word, not to her, not to my parents, not to anyone. I just let it happen. Madison moved in 3 months later, and the humiliation didn't stop. It got worse. She started bragging about her luxury apartment at family dinners. She'd show photos on her phone. She'd talk about the stainless steel appliances, the walk-in closet, the balcony view, and then she'd look at me and say things like, Haley, you could never afford a place like this. Your income couldn't even pass the application process, girl. Or, you'll be in rentals your whole life. Some people just aren't meant to own. Mom would laugh. Dad would nod approvingly, proud of Madison's discerning taste, proud that she could afford such a nice place. They had no idea that I owned the building, that I'd reviewed her application, that every month when she paid rent, that money was going into an account I had access to. I stayed silent, because humility had become my armor. Let them think I'm small, I told myself. Let them underestimate me. It only makes what's coming sweeter. And then came the family dinner. The one that broke me and freed me all at once. It was our annual extended family gathering. Cousins, aunts, uncles, everyone crammed into my parents' dining room. Madison had been drinking wine, feeling bold, feeling untouchable. She looked at me across the table, and in front of everyone, she said, "You? Own property? Haley, you'll be renting until you're 80. The table got quiet. I felt every eye on me. Waiting to see if I'd defend myself. Waiting to see if I'd finally snap. Dad didn't defend me. He never did. He just nodded, like Madison had said something wise, something true. Then he added, "Some people just aren't built for responsibility." I felt something crack inside me. Not break, crack. Like a dam that's been holding back years of pressure. I could have exploded. I could have screamed. I could have told them right then and there exactly who owned Madison's precious apartment. But I didn't. I looked my sister in the eye, and I whispered, "You're probably right." I watched her smirk. I watched my dad nod with satisfaction. I watched my mom give me that pitying look she always gives me, like I'm some wounded animal that needs to be put out of its misery. And I smiled, because I knew what I was going to do the very next morning. I woke up early, made coffee, sat at my kitchen table, and I called my property manager. "Hey, it's Haley Monroe. I need you to do something for me." "Sure, what's up?" "Tenant Madison Brown in Unit 12. Stop accepting her rent payments. Effective immediately." There was a pause. Can I ask why?" "Flag her unit for ownership transfer protocol. Don't tell her yet. Just stop processing her payments. I'll explain the rest later." "You're the owner, so, okay. Done." I hung up, and I felt a calm wash over me that I hadn't felt in years. The building was undergoing legal restructuring anyway. We were transferring some units under different management entities for tax purposes. It was the perfect time to make Madison aware of who actually owned her home. 2 weeks later, Madison received an automated notice in her tenant portal. "Your landlord will be contacting you regarding your unit. Please schedule an in-person meeting at your earliest convenience." She panicked. She called my mom crying, convinced she was being evicted. She called my dad, who immediately started trying to fix it, making calls to people he thought had influence. She called me. I let it ring. She left a voicemail. "Haley, I know you don't know anything about real estate, but do you know anyone who could help me? I think I'm being evicted and I don't know what to do." Even in crisis, she couldn't resist the condescension. I texted back, "Sorry, I don't know anyone. Hope it works out." The property manager scheduled an in-person meeting. Madison showed up in full corporate armor, blazer, heels, designer bag. Ready to fight. I showed up in jeans and a sweater, carrying a binder. Madison was already in the conference room when I walked in. She looked confused. "Haley? What are you doing here?" I didn't answer. I sat down across from her. The property manager sat next to me. Madison looked at him. Do you work here, Haley?" The manager cleared his throat. "Ms. Monroe, as the property owner, I think you should explain the changes." I watched the color drain from Madison's face. "What?" I opened the binder, slid the documents across the table. LLC registration, purchase contract, asset list showing all 24 units, including hers. "I own the building, Madison. I've owned it for 2 years. I approved your application." "I've been your landlord this whole time." She stared at the documents like they were written in a foreign language. You own this? You?" "Me. But how? You don't have money. You can't. I can." And I did. Her hands were shaking. She looked at the property manager, like he could tell her this was a joke. He just nodded. "Ms. Monroe is one of 3 partners in the LLC. She handles all tenant relations for this property." Madison looked back at me, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Fear. So what does this mean? Are you evicting me?" I leaned back in my chair. "I told you last night at dinner, Madison. You were probably right. I'm not built to rent forever. She didn't know what to say. For the first time in her life, my sister had no comeback, no smug retort, no condescending laugh, just silence. I'm restructuring the building to make it more affordable for working families. Your rent is actually going to decrease by $200 a month. I'll send over the new lease terms tomorrow. You're not being evicted. You're being taken care of. By me. I stood up, closed the binder, and walked out. I didn't wait for her reaction. I didn't need to see her cry, or apologize, or scramble for words. I'd already won. The fallout was seismic. Madison called my parents immediately. They didn't believe her. They thought she was having some kind of breakdown. It wasn't until I sent them the LLC documents that it became real. Dad called me. For the first time in years, he called me directly. Haley, is this true? Yes. You own Madison's building? I own 3 buildings now, actually. Madison's was the first. Silence. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? He didn't answer. Madison signed a new lease. Under my terms. Every month, she pays rent to an LLC I co-own. Every month, she's reminded that the sister she mocked, the sister she belittled, the sister she thought would never amount to anything, is her landlord. She's different now, quieter, humbled. She doesn't brag at family dinners anymore. She doesn't mock me. She barely makes eye contact. Dad started treating me like an adult for the first time in my life. He asks my advice now, about investments, about property, about money. It's surreal. Mom apologized, quietly, awkwardly, over coffee one afternoon. She said she didn't realize how badly they'd treated me. I didn't tell her it was okay, because it wasn't. I continued buying properties with my partners. We now own 4 buildings, 96 units total. We're providing affordable housing to families who've been priced out of everything else. And I've learned something powerful. Owning property isn't about proving people wrong. It's about protecting your future. It's about building security in a world that tries to convince you you're not worthy of it. But here's the truth they don't tell you. Family doesn't always recognize your growth until it slaps them in the face. And being underestimated? That's often your greatest weapon. Because while they're laughing at you, you're learning. While they're dismissing you, you're building. And when they finally see what you've become, it's already too late for them to take credit. I don't need my family's approval anymore. I don't need Madison's respect, or my father's pride, or my mother's validation. I have something better. I have property. I have security. I have proof that I was never the person they said I was. And every month, when Madison pays her rent, she's reminded of that too. If you've ever been underestimated by your own family, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from tonight. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support means everything.